place over here. They said you must come, or else the meeting will not continue. Are you have already the ES lead director, sir? Yes. A round of applause. Encourage him. We also have what we've mentioned, Mr. Egweke, and in lead up to this meeting, we will continue to announce give other recognitions as they come. But in the meantime, as we prepare for the executive secretary's opening remarks, it's important we know why we are here. And as many stakeholders are here present who are familiar with this process, it's important that we emphasize that the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Neiti, is the national chapter of the Global Extractive Industries and Transparency Initiative, which is mandated by law, the Neiti Act of 2007. Permit me to say that in the EITL process, global process, Nigeria is the first to enact a law. I'm always very proud to announce that we are leading in this global process to promote transparency and accountability in the management of Nigeria's oil, gas, and mining revenues. The decision to implement the EITI was for a comprehensive social economic reform program, which was embarked upon by the federal government of Nigeria in 2004. To ensure the continued transparency and accountability, Neiti carries out industry audits of the sector, which is a tool used to improve governance of the Nigeria extractive industries. Today, Neiti is unveiling the 2020-2021 fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement industry audit that looks at the total revenue from the extractive sector to the federation account, how they are disbursed and utilized during the period under review. I'm very sure that this is one of the most important exercises in the in the work of the federal government. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, join me to welcome the Chief Executive Officer and the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Extractive Industries and Transparency Initiative, Dr. Oji Ogbonnaya Oji. A round of applause.
Well, thank you very much. And I would like to thank Frank for all his support and the interventions. We were not actually expecting a very large crowd today because this report is more of subnational. But I would like to thank all of you that are already here. Let me just add to the recognition of the ROLAC team from the European Union who are helping us to shape today's event. They brought us to this venue and we're grateful. Emmanuel Uche, the rule of law and anti-corruption of the British Council. And I also saw our brother Dala, who has been working with us every morning. Thank you very much for coming. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me recognize all the heads of agencies that are here. We are very grateful to the Auditor General for sending us a very competent director to stand in for him. When we produce our reports go straight to the Auditor General and also to the National Assembly. And we are therefore honored today that the Auditor General couldn't make it, but he is here. The companies represented here, and heads of agencies, I'm very grateful for all your attendance. Please, can we all fill the vacancies? Can we all come in front? Make sure that seats in front are filled up. If we want to have vacancies, let it quickly, especially our staff. Please adjust quickly. I would also like to invite one of our partners from the Natural Resource Governance Institute, Tengi. Please, can you come upstairs? Can you come the fire table? Yeah. Those at the back, please quickly in front. Well, it's my pleasure, honestly, to welcome all of us to this unveiling of today's report. This is the third in the series. In this same hall, we unveiled the oil and gas report, which is already generating enormous debate and public consciousness. The report is already before the National Assembly for debate, which is very groundbreaking for us. We equally unveiled the solid minerals report, also in this hall. And today, the report that we're unveiling today is a special report that focuses on revenue utilization. The other reports focus more on payments made by companies received by government. This particular report provides information and data on utilization. This is the report that follows the money. And we are very glad that we are here to unveil the report for physical allocation and statutory disbursement audit that cover the period 2020 to 2021. This report provides information and data on how revenues were shared by the three tiers of government, how they were remitted, how they were deployed, how they were used, who got what, and how. We're equally interested in this same report on how information and data from these revenues could help us understand how government works at federal, state, and local government levels. As we speak, apart from Neiti data, it's very difficult to have this kind of information anywhere in Nigeria in one booklet, in one document. Keeping information and data in our country has become a huge challenge, and that is the knowledge gap that Neiti is currently bridging. The report we are about unveiling today review processes that characterize all transactions within the sector. It looked at independent assessment of financial transactions in the areas of revenue receipts and payments and how the processes of utilization weighed in terms of transparency, accountability in the country. Other areas the Neiti FASD report focused on were on projects executed or not executed, funds appropriated, used or not used. We equally looked at capital projects, which of the covered states and agencies focused on capital projects, and those who focus more on recurrent. Our interest here is that when an agency or government focuses more on capital projects, then the citizens have a reason to expect that some impact can be recorded in terms of building road, water, electricity, providing security, and putting in place environment that can create jobs. But when attention is focused on administrative costs, then the citizens have every reason to show concern. Neiti also examined the basis for computation of the various remittances that were made either by fact, who gets what and how, and examined how the taxes and other forms of revenue were made. We therefore express our appreciation to the indigenous firm that conducted this project, Mrs. Amedu Onekpe and Co. It's an independent indigenous firm. Are they here? Please give them a round of applause. We worked very closely with them, and our team that superintended over this project. Neiti is a very small organization in terms of number, but when it comes to skills and knowledge, we are very mighty. So the team that worked on this project from the Energy and Mines Department and all our SMT members that are here, please stand up for recognition. I must say I'm very proud of all of them, all our staff that worked and produced this report, working closely with the independent administrators. I therefore would like to urge all agencies represented here and the 9 states that were covered in this report to please take this report very seriously, study them, and look at the recommendations we have made. We're equally very grateful to the government, federal government of Nigeria, that have continued to provide all the support for Neiti, providing the funding, and most importantly, not interfering in our work. The government, both past and present, have continued to tolerate us and allow us to be as independent as we would like to be. But our independence is with responsibility. We provide information to government, hard truths, with all the honest of intentions, and we are glad that government has continued to partner with us, even when we're a government agency, and have not in any way tried to undermine our work. We are equally very grateful to the past board that will work with us on this project. They commissioned, approved the terms of reference before they were affected by the recent board dissolution. We're equally grateful to the civil society, the companies, MDAs, the media, and our international development partners. I've just mentioned the European Union under the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Project. We have the World Bank and our international partner, the Global Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, for all their support and guidance. We equally would like to acknowledge the support we have received so far from members of the National Assembly. The 2 reports we have presented are generating the right kind of debate that we expect. Our hope is that the debate will lead to impact. Finally, let me state that one major challenge we still have is the absence of our board. The global EITI process, which Nigeria signed on to, requires existence of the National Stakeholders Working Group to provide oversight and leadership. We are supposed to be working under the guidance of the board. And we have made a point that our stakeholders, NSWG, is not really a board, is globally acknowledged, and their absence can lead to our country disqualification from the 57-member world body. In a forum like this, we can be tired to appeal to the government to either recall the former board or quickly reconstitute a new one. But to live like an orphan in the midst of the 57 member countries doesn't give our country a good image. We'll continue to plead with the federal government, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, his administration, to please reconsider to either exempt or reconstitute the National Stakeholders Working Group of Neiti, because it's a global requirement for Nigeria as a signatory to the International Convention and International EITI. I would therefore like to use the opportunity to ask that when we present this report, it shouldn't just end there. Members of the media, the civil society, and all the relevant agencies need to take a second passionate look at what we're saying in the report in terms of context, in terms of content, in terms of comprehension, and apply them to the specific areas we have also recommended to bring about reforms. When FAC shares money, you need to be interested on who is getting what. Are those getting what they should get? Are they applying them to where they should? Our report x-rayed all this and found out that it's not just the way you think that FAC has shared and is dispersed that way. There are a lot of more information that our report has uncovered. And it's very important that we keep providing this information in the public domain for the companies that actually pay most of these taxes, for government that utilize the money, and for the citizens that expect benefit from these disclosures, to use this information as a tool to hold government and companies accountable. When we say government, we're not referring to federal or state, we are referring to federal, state, and local government. And again, our citizens, because the citizens deserve the kind of government that they want. The more you push, the more you ask, engage in constructive debate, the more likely government is to listen and embrace reforms that connect and help positively shape our lives. On that note, I would like to once again welcome you and once again thank all our dignitaries, all our staff, all the civil society, and invited guests gathered here. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Sure. Thank you. That was quite reassuring. I think the Executive Secretary deserves another round of applause. It's not easy to manage independence, especially when reporting matters that can tend to corruption. At this time, we will invite the representatives of government, companies, civil society, and development partners to give their goodwill messages. But in the meantime, we have, it's important that certain persons in our midst must be recognized. In fact, it is almost a capital offense not to do that. Before that, we again recognize the presence of Mr. Emmanuel Uche of IDEA International. Great. We also have the privilege of the representative of CISLAC in our midst is the program manager, Mr. Chinedu Basi. Chinedu Basi. Oh, great. The national executive member of Women in Mining Nigeria, Ambassador Regina Ezuma. Are you here? Great. And Mr. Paul Ogu, the Executive Director of ISD Foundation. Mr. Paul? Please recognize these CSO people very well. They are the ones who will give effect to this report. We also have the Program Officer of Global Rights. I wonder why you have just one name. Damilola, are you here representing Global Rights? And then the Chief Executive Officer of White Gold Initiative, Mrs. Wasila Togubowale. Mrs. Ogubowale, are you still around? All right. And then we some of the pillars of this of the CSO in this process, Mr. Basi Udo, the national coordinator of Metel. Mr. Basi, we just recognized you. Let it be on record. Mr. Efe Isegonime, program executive of Order Paper. I thought the big man of Order Paper is here. Mr. Oke up here, the executive director of Order Paper. May I recognize you at this time, please? What happened? And then we also have the director, the program manager of Care Initiative, Mr. Moses Oluwaseyi. Moses. Okay. All right. So we will pause that for now and then go to take the goodwill messages. We take from the all-important representative of the government, and to speak on behalf of the government is the representative of the chief executive of the authority, that is the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and it's no other person but the Director of Operations, Mr. Hosseini Mukila. A round of applause, please. And he has just 3 minutes to convey that important message from the government. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, the name is Mukaila. The Executive Secretary, Neiti, Dr. Oji Obunaya Oji, while you are delivering the introductory address, you try to establish some kind of protocol by acknowledging each and every one that are present here today. So to all, I say good afternoon. And once again, you are welcome to today's Neiti meeting. I'm standing here today to deliver the goodwill message from Engineer Farouk Ahmed, who is the authority chief executive, who would like to have been here to deliver this on behalf of the government, but he has asked me to do that. So what I'm going to do is to read through the goodwill message so that I will have been seen to have delivered the good message at this occasion. So, and I read, I'm delighted to be invited to attend the unveiling of the 2020-2021 Fiscal Allocation and Statutory Disbursement Reports organized by the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NAETI. The role being played by NAETI has over the years improved transparency in the public and private sector businesses, and even beyond the extractive industries. NAETI's demand for accountability from stakeholders has increased sense of responsibility among agencies and government institutions towards enhancing revenue and maximum value for Nigerian people. When the executive secretary was delivering his introductory message, he so many times mentioned that what they have done is to x-ray not only the federal government, but they have also looked at, government at various stages, the federal government, the state government, the local government. In his speech, he said the Nigerians, deserved to be properly served. When money are disbursed, Nigerians needs to know how they utilize the money. And some of this, he said, is in the report. So it's a welcoming, you said this should be the second or third of its kind that they are doing. And the Nigerian, when they look at the Haiti, as being playing a very leading roles Congratulations on that. At the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, we are concerned with setting the rules of engagement within our sector, midstream and downstream space, to spur investment, create value, and provide decent livelihood through the energy sector across the entire federating units of our dear nation, Nigeria. We are more than happy to partner with Neiti to bring transparency in processing, storage, distribution of petroleum liquids and natural gas for shared prosperity. Today marks an epoch-making event, being that the vital information, data, and crucial facts to be unveiled will provide opportunity for insight so that we can have a better foresight on our national revenue profile, disbursement, and utilization, with implications for consolidations, improvement, and possible review. On behalf of the government standing here today, representing Authority Chief Executive, I heartily congratulate the Neiti and assure you of our continued support and collaboration as we wish you a very successful unveiling of the 2020-2021 fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement report. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, NMDPRA, for that goodwill message. Our next goodwill message is coming from the development partners. But before then, there is a service seat over there. And it's to be occupied by Mr. Ayuba Francis Jacob, who is the Director of Environmental Quality Control, representing the Director General and CEO of Nexria. Mr. Ayuba, please. A round of applause. And our next goodwill message is coming from Mr. Emmanuel Uche of Idea International. A round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Please permit me to stand on the protocol already established by my brother here. It's an auspicious day, and we don't need to waste any more time. So first, let me bring you very warm greetings from partly the European Union delegation to Nigeria, who are our funders. They are the backbone behind the international idea supporting this event today. I also bring you very warm greetings from my national, the head of program in Nigeria, Danladi Plang. He was here for the last meeting. He would have loved to be here today. So let me just say we're very, very impressed with Neiti. So far, so good. We're seeing a new Neiti doing wonderful things far beyond what we have ever seen in the past. It's worth acknowledging. And I think this is because when the right people are in position, things change. But it's not just sufficient that things change at Neiti. We have seen a great change, no doubt. But it's not sufficient that things change at Neiti alone. It is also more important that the things coming from Neiti to the country begins to make the difference it needs to make. And that difference can only happen if we take the products, the knowledge products, the facts coming out from the Neiti audit reports and all the different partners run with it. We support this process. We love the partnership we're enjoying with Neiti and the difference it's making and the difference it can make. The International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance International idea is the new organization implementing the rule of law and anti-corruption project phase 2 in Nigeria. They just took over from the British Council. And the new maxim is that because international idea is all about making democracy work for the people to whom it belongs, how will democracy be strengthened if the people don't enjoy the dividends of the whole idea of democracy? And how will the people get the benefits of democracy if their resources are not followed bumper to bumper? Yes, Neiti, kudos for the solid mineral report. Kudos for the oil and gas report. I looked around the room and I saw that when we did the other two reports, it appears like we had bigger weights in the room than we are having today. But it's not sufficient that we get the resources together. It is also as important that the resources are shared equitably and that everyone who is a stakeholder in the process understands what their right is and what the entitlements are and follow it so that there can be an equitable state. So in supporting rule of law, the first part of the project is rule of law and anti-corruption. Rule of law is all about justice. It's all about fairness. It's all about equity. It's all about ensuring that the people get what rightly belongs to them and that the resources of the people work for the people. So if you ask me, this fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement report is much more important than the other ones that talks about how did the money come in. Yes, how did the money come in? How much royalties were paid? But how exactly and to what use are these being put? That is the critical question. And I think this can only work if every party in this process, particularly our sister organizations, the anti-corruption agencies, the law enforcement agencies, and more importantly, the civil society and the media. And when I looked around the room, I saw 14 civil society organizations and about 11 media in this room, which basically says, yes, the right people are in the room. Please, let's cascade this report. It's not to be on the shelf. These reports are working tools. And the only value these reports bring to bear is when we take it and get to the field, follow the money, ask the critical questions, and make this democracy work for us. It belongs to us. So I want to say congrats to Neiti for doing the right thing, for bringing us together, for gearing us up for the change that we all need to make for ourselves. Please let the rest of us work to make these things happen. Our sister agencies, please take up the reports. The committees of the National Assembly, many of them here represented, please, we charge you. Don't let these reports fall through the cracks. The Auditor General, let's follow up where there are indictments or where there are flags that people need to follow up. Neiti has done its bit. The rest of us need to run with it and make the difference. On this note, we will be very, very happy to see democracy strengthened and fully established in this part of the world. For now, many of us are still wondering what we are doing, but democracy only works when the resources work for the people. On this note, I want to say thank you very much. Let's look forward to the dream Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Uche. That was quite a rousing goodwill message. Let's go quickly to the Executive Director of OPTS, Mr. Gweke Ejaifia. I hope I got it right. A round of applause. And you look quite good.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the pronunciation of the name. Not many people find it easy to pronounce it, except that it's not Ejaifia, it's Ajaifia. Yeah. Thank you so much once again to Neiti for being here. I would like to start by bringing messages from my chairman, who is not able to attend, the OPTS chairman himself, and to welcome everybody to this important event. I would like to start by appreciating the executive secretary and his team, for being very consistent, for their good work, and the energy, the passion that they have brought to their work. This is something that is very evident in the past event we have witnessed in this hall, where we have seen the release of the various industry reports. This is really very important, and that's why Neiti is here. Any society that does not display transparency cannot actually be progressive. So transparency can be said to be a backbone of a society that will progress. And this industry, the extractive industry, which also includes the oil and gas, generates about 90% of the forex for the country, as a whole. So that can tell you the importance of this industry to the stability of your naira, of your currency. And that is why it's important for the public to be aware of what comes in, how it is allocated, and how it is spent. OPTS represents the oil producers trade section of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So we are an association that are under the umbrella of LCCI in Lagos. And our job is really to advocate for the good of the industry. So we have over 28 members, the 5 big IOCs, Total Energies, Chevron, ExxonMobil, ENI, and the rest. And on top of that, we have the indigenous producers of Nigeria. So together we form a very formidable force. Transparency is part of our business culture, and that is why we are happy to be associated with Neiti. And to buttress that, OPTS has a position in the board of Neiti. So ES, I want to say a big thank you to you and your team. Please continue with the passion and energy. We are happy to support you. The important thing is to ensure that the information that we have in these reports are accurate, so that they can stand the test of time and they can be used for the purpose of research, for the purpose of investment, for the purpose of improving what we are doing. So once again, I say welcome and enjoy the event.
Thank you, Mr. Igweke. And we move on to the last goodwill message. And before that, we recognize the presence of Professor Mutaka Usman, who is a champion of the EITR process in Nigeria, representing the academia. Prof, you're welcome. And to take the goodwill message on behalf of the civil society organizations here present is the chairman of the Global Council of Publish What You Pay, also the executive director of Center LSD, Mr. Monday Oshasha. Mr. Monday.
Okay. I'd like to stand on the already established protocol and to say that we are very happy to be here constituency, civil society constituency in Nigeria. And we are glad that Neiti has come up with this report. You know, the summary of what civil society organizations are doing is essentially to bring about transparency and accountability. And Neiti has given us, before now, 2 reports. And now this is another report that has come, which we'll be unveiling today. And so on behalf of civil society, I'd like to congratulate Neiti for a job well done. Because what we do in civil society needs information and data. If you don't have information, advocacy will be difficult, engagement will be difficult. But I think Neiti has made the work simpler for us by giving us this document today. So the charge really is that, yes, we are going to unveil this document, and other documents have been unveiled in the past. And we know that one of the ways to build trust among citizens is to provide them with information. And this one, even though it is a little bit of a departure from the 2 documents that have been unveiled before now, this one is showing clearly how the monies were utilized. The other ones talked about the sources where they were generated. This one is talking about utilization. And so for civil society, the document is for us to work with. And please, let us not just unveil it and leave it at that level, putting it in our shelves just to be gathering dust. It is for us to read the documents, understand it, and where necessary, develop other proposals from it. That is the only way we can really evidence our advocacy. And I'm happy with what our brother and friend from IDEA talked about, how that they supported Neiti in this process. Who knows, if we are able to develop concept out of this document, we can come to IDEA, and IDEA will really support it for us. And they are giving us commitment already. He's saying they will support it. But please, before you go to IDEA, because I did the advocacy here, make sure you pass through me. So on behalf of civil society, we thank Neiti for a job well done. We thank also IDEA and everyone that supported this process, that we covet more support, and we know you are going to do that for us. Thank you, and God bless all of us.
Civil society leaders can be also political in their pursuing interests. Dr. Oji Ogbona Oji, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Extractive Industries and Transparency Initiative, will at this time present the highlights of the 2020-2021 Fiscal Allocation and Statutory Disbursement Report. Let us put our hands together as he mounts the podium.
Well, thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen. I will just quickly take a few less than 15 minutes of your time, or maybe 20 minutes, to just take us through the key highlights of the report that we want to unveil, to give you an idea of, 1, the scope, 2, the kind of work we do, 3, the importance and significance of this report, and 4, why this report makes sense and why it is important we use it, understand it, and allow the impacts of the objective of the report to come in. So the highlights will be why, the introduction, objective, relevance of the revenue streams that we looked at, states, federal government agencies covered, There are 9 states that were specific focus and the justification why, the approach and methodology we used, significance of the highlights, the remittances that were recorded, and we just cap it all with findings and recommendation. And in a sense, it's an abridged report. The document is rich, very detailed, with graphic details supported with evidence. Next slide. Well, the purpose of this report is to track and provide information to the public on the following. 1, revenue received by the government. I'm seeing 2. Where is 1? Revenues received by the government, federal, states, and local government during the period under review. This report looked at 2020 and the 2021. We're already working on 2022 and 2023. The other one is to provide information and data on utilization of the funds. How were these funds used to support national development and poverty reduction? The other one is to report on the misuse of these revenues received and then how this can be avoided. To report on attention to internally generated revenue by various levels of government. How were they able to create alternative sources of income during the period? Provide information and data on support, on how information and data provided can support national planning and public finance management reforms. Now, the specific tasks that we gave to our consultants were: 1, to track physical allocation, that's FAC, how they are disbursed by FAC to the 3 tiers of government. And there's a formula which will come shortly, where those formula in sharing the allocations were they followed? If not, why? 2, examine remittances of revenues accrued into federal government account. When we generate money, the Constitution requires that this money be paid into federation account, where during this period, where this complied with it, and we do not always take for granted. Yes, we need to ask questions and establish if. 3, report on utilization. When the money is received by the various recipients, how were they used? The 3rd one, provide this information as we are doing now for civic engagement. Those who come from states, the government complains we don't have money. You say you have data. And then support national planning. We're a member of the Nigeria Economic Summit. We're working with the National Ministry of Budget and National Planning. We're working with the relevant agencies. They come to us for data and we provide with specifics and clarity. Next slide. Now, what are the revenue streams that we're talking about? How does government actually, where are this money coming from? From our report, they are grouped into 4. Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, that accounts for all the revenues from profit tax, petroleum profit tax. It can be solid minerals, company income tax, education tax, value added tax, other taxes. We have the FIRS. The first one should actually be Ministry of Petroleum Resources. There's a mistake there. Please, I own up. FIRS, the crude sales, gas, feedstock, export, and LPG, other expenditure, other export incomes, the whole thing that do with tax. These are people that actually push money into federal revenue. You have revenue generation, oil, gas, the main sources of this revenue, oil and gas, royalties, other oil and gas recipients, concessions, rents, fees, and all that. Then solid minerals royalties, annual service fees, other fees, and so on. Those are the areas that we focused. And why? Because Neiti's legitimate interest are in the areas of revenues that accrue to government from extractive industry. We show interest in others, but our mandate is on extractive industry. Next slide. Now, states and federal agencies that we covered. For the states, we looked at Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Gombe, Kano, Nasarawa, Ondo, Rivers, and Imo. Each of these 9 states are either rich in oil, gas, or mining, or in some cases, all of them. And they are the states that also derive resources from 13% derivation. Revenue generating agencies, NNPC, the upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission that collect all the royalties in the extractive industry, and the former DPR, FRS, of course, for all the taxes, Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. Now, there are agencies that benefit directly when these funds are disbursed. TED Fund, PDTF, NDDC, Local Content Development Board, Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Resources Agency, the Midstream. As at that time, these were the names, but these agencies have now been collapsed following the passage of the PIA. But by the time we were doing this report, they still maintain their old nomenclature. Then Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, the Natural Development of Natural Resource Fund, Stabilization Fund, Ecological Fund, Excess Crude Account. Next slide. The 9 states covered, the reason is either any of these states must be rich in oil, gas, or mining. I've said this before. And each and every one of them take share from 13% derivation. And then we equally looked at geographical representation. In any zone, we at least have one state as case study. If you check from the 9, we have all the 6 geopolitical zones covered. Next slide. Now, the methodology and approach we used, we looked at the data gathering, developed data gathering template that are suited for this report. This template looks like, it's like a questionnaire we administered to all the, by the time you finish filling these templates, all the required information that we needed had already come in. We collected this data, and then we went on the field to validate, verify, and validate this data. And that's where the main painstaking job rested. We had engagement meetings to reconcile data with all the covered entities. Covered entities in this case includes the companies, the government agencies, and the states that were covered by the report. Then there was preparation for approval, which our stakeholders endorsed. And each of these states and agencies that complied with this process signed off that the data and report were presented are the way it is. That's the difference between our own process and what you now call normal audit. They are agency driven. At the reconciliation, we have to look at the data you supplied and you sign off that it is. So what we are presenting to you are specifically agencies and subnational, have enjoyed subnational ownership. Next slide. Now, the key highlights of the report are very interesting. And I'll just quickly go through. We were able to establish how much money that came into the federation account that the federation generated in 2020, 2021 to the region of 14.38 trillion. So you can clearly say that in 2020 and 2021, Nigeria generated 14.38 trillion as revenue. And this is made up of minerals revenues that came from minerals and non-minerals alike. And we are giving the breakdown. The minerals revenue up there, the non-minerals revenue, and those that came from VAT. They are all here. Next slide. We have equally given breakdown of total remittances to the federation account from this revenue, which of them went to and which agency remitted what. From the mineral revenue, you have the NNPC remittances, ODPR, now NUPLC, FRS, Sunny Minerals, and for non-mineral revenues like CIT, Nigeria Customs Service, other taxes, and VAT, the figure are well laid out and produced. That, when you add the two, it goes to the total revenue that came into the country during that period. This data is very important. The international community relies on it, and we are proud that the reports that we are producing has continued to elicit the right kind of requests for information and data. Please go to the next slide. Now, for some of us, we may not know how government shares the revenue. There's a sharing formula that exists, and that sharing formula hasn't changed. Federal government, when monies are paid into federation account, they are shared according to a formula. Federal government has a share of 45.83%. State governments 23.25%. Local government 17.92%. And 13% derivation is 13% as is known. This derivation is only applicable and available for states that produce oil, gas, and mining in commercial quantity, not crude oil or mining, not palm oil. Next one. So the distribution of the mineral revenues are also broken down. 30% derivation in terms of the revenues. The mineral producing states 30% derivation. What they got in total they got in 2020, total they got in 2021, and the total they got within the 2 years on 13% derivation alone. Then distribution among the 3 tiers of government. Federal government got what federal government got in 2020 is there. What they got in 2021 and the total in 2 years. States, local governments, and the grand total. They're all broken down. And I assure you that this presentation, as summarized, will be available to all those participating in this meeting. Next slide. Now, how much of this money actually were remitted to the federation account? From what was remitted, from what was earned, we established that 2.801 trillion went into federation account. And then out of which the 14 states and FCT got 1.447 trillion as their own share, and the local government got 1.169 as their own share. This is very specific. For the benefiting agencies that have to take their own direct, we have broken down what went to NDDC, TED Fund, PDTF, NCDMB, and so on, up to stabilization fund. And there's a formula that guides all of this. Next slide. We just took Niger Delta Development Commission for purposes of this presentation because their remittance, their operations are very of interest to us. Now, how does NDDC get money? What is their revenue stream like? NDDC is entitled by law to get federal government direct deductions of 15% of total monthly statutory allocation due to member states. When member states, which are 9 states, go to FAC, whatever is due to them, before they get their due, 15% of it is deducted and remitted to NDDC. The second source of income revenue for NDDC is 50% of all monies due to member states from the Ecological Fund. When member states, and these states are known, Rivers, Delta, Abia, Imo, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, they are 9, including on those states. 50% of all monies due to member states before any fund due to states are shared. 50% of it are removed and paid to the coffers of these 9 states. The final source of income for them is 3% of total annual budget of all oil companies. So you will expect that this commission is rich because money flows in from left and right. And go back to the slide. Go back. Go back. Now, what is the actual mandate of NDDC? By the way, NDDC was invited. Is anybody from NDDC here? They don't attend this kind of meeting. To offer lasting solution, because there have been a lot of agitations in the Niger Delta, and all other measures appear to have been tried, and this one is lasting solution to the socioeconomic difficulties of Niger Delta region. Lasting solution. Now, what is their specific job? To facilitate rapid and sustainable development of the region to attain economic prosperity, social stability, development, peace, and harmony through visible improved standard of living. NDDC was established in 2003. Between 2003 and now, how many years? 20 years. We have requested to take a tour of NDDC, the Niger Delta once more, and we want to be doing this every single year so that our next presentation will be backed by pictures of the living condition in that region. Next slide. So during the period under review, from the 3 sources NDDC was to get money, they got 355.46 billion. But you know that monies accrued to the commission every single year from these sources. So, and we have given breakdown of various contributions, federal government contribution, ecological fund contribution, contribution from oil companies. Then we equally provided other sources where they get money, tender fee, bank interest, recoveries, sundry income. All of them came to what they got within the period under review. Go to the next slide. But we equally discovered that just for this period, the total expenditure on development projects was 2.41 trillion, which in a sense was high in terms of capital projects because 97.71% of that went to capital and 2.29% went to recurrent expenditure. A further breakdown shows what was spent on road and bridges, what was spent on infrastructure. Another component of the expenditure that came to our mind was what they spent on scholarships. 1.99 million on USD, Canadian currency, zero, they are including pound sterling. So, you will expect that if 97.71% of their revenue went to capital projects, one will expect that the visible impact, the majority of these projects from our reports are either yet to commence or are ongoing. Very few were completed. And we were unable to visit and establish where these projects are located. Because it's uneasy to have a project on the paper and money paid, and we needed to ascertain that these projects are really on ground. And we have recorded them, and it's a task that will go following the data that we have. Just show exactly the breakdown of some projects that we'll be interested to see. Can you go next slide? Okay, the completed projects. We have given breakdown of the the projects. Next slide. We had a slide where the projects that we are interested in, all of them, there are about 18 or more of them spread across the 9 states, and some states got more. We have them in the appendices to the report because we are doing an abridged presentation. The Niger Delta Development Commission is an agency of interest to Neiti, and we are going to do a much deeper report on what we have seen. Go to the next slide. So we go back to the state disbursements. Now, this is the breakdown of disbursement to states and local governments. If you remove 13% derivation and only FAC share of the resources, Niger State will be topping, followed by Kogi, followed by Lagos in terms of what they got. And the states that are in red, you have Kano. We looked at what each state got if you remove 13% derivation before sharing. Next slide. The same continues. The ones that are in red are part of those 9 states that were covered by, that derive money from derivation. Next slide. Now, the comparative analysis of FAC allocations with IGR. How many of these states that get enough money from are also doing some work on generating their own internally generated revenue? We discovered that many of the states that are under 13%, many of the states are relying very heavily on FAC. Akwa Ibom relies 83.46% for their money on coming to Abuja to collect money. 83%. Bayelsa State is 91.46%. If they don't share any money from Abuja, the state cannot function. Delta State, 78.13%. Gombe State, 84.79%. Imo State, 82.15%. Kano, 73.13%. Nasarawa, 74. Ondo, 70. Rivers State, 56.25%. That means half of their expenditure, almost half of their expenditure can come from internally generated revenue. And you know why their own is low? Because operations of most oil companies are in Port Harcourt. And these companies apparently respond willingly by paying their local taxes. If not, in terms of creativity to generate revenue, almost all the states depend on Abuja funding for money. Next slide. But the worst state is Bayelsa when it comes to the money that you get. How many of them do you deploy to capital projects? Because capital projects is the project that provides roads, water, electricity, and the needs of the people. For Bayelsa State, they only spend 28%. Akwa Ibom 42%, Gombe 28%, and so on. Is all on the last side of the slide. How much each state deploys on capital expenditure. Most of the states spend more on governance and administrative charges. Go to the next slide. We are still on expenditure on capital projects. Next slide. Well, we just took just one state because Akwa Ibom State is too high in terms of revenue. When you combine what they get in 30% and add it to their FAC, in a way, what they get in a month is far above what some states, 5 states in parts of the country get in 1 month. What they get in a month is bigger than some 5-6 states put together. So they became also of interest to us. How do they apply their money in terms of expenditure to critical sectors of the economy? For agriculture, they only spend 3.21%. Commerce and industry, 3.63%. Energy, which is power, they spend 0.01%. Transportation, 42.61%. They are more interested in transportation. Budget office of the Accountant General, and so on. Then, when it comes to education, how much does Akwa Ibom spend on education? 0.67%. Then how would transportation be more important than education? On health, 1.79%. Information on social development, 0.7%. So on environment, water, provision of water to the people, they spend 0.02%. Land survey and housing, 1.46%. Drainage and sewage, 0.02%. Community development, 12.27%. On general administration, infrastructure, they spent 13.58%. And then, so why this data is very important, if you carefully sit down to analyze them, you will understand how states may earn more money and they deliver so little to their people. We need to point out these issues, highlight them. We just took Akwa Ibom because if we had seen what comes from FAC plus 30% derivation, which I think should be in this slide, you would have seen that a lot of money, much more money, goes to that state. The same thing with Delta, the same thing with Rivers, and most of the 9 states that are deriving revenue from 30% derivation. But if you go to these states, we would like to see commensurate infrastructure in terms of capital projects that have access to water, electricity, health for their citizens. If you go to the main report, you will see much more details with evidence of what the JOG will have done. Next slide. Well, we do not have all the time to take you through this report, but one, in terms of recommendation, the recommendations can be found on page 210 to 222 of the main report, which will be available on our website immediately after this presentation. For the FRS, there are most times FRS announces increase in tax collection. But when you check the tax ratio to our GDP is still far very low. And therefore, we have recommended an overhaul of the existing tax administration infrastructure to simplify tax administration, streamline and harmonize tax collection, and eliminate multiple taxation. The overhaul aims to reduce physical interface between taxpayers. In fact, in the detail, we recommended comprehensive tax reform to the organization. Luckily, there's a presidential initiative on that already, and we will also be sharing our report with Taiwo, who used to work with PwC and was one of those also working closely with us, to see whether there will be a sense in what our report is saying and what his committee is trying to do to reform the tax system. Next slide. Next slide. We have specific recommendation on the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. Next slide. And our recommendation there is on the contribution of the solid mineral sector to the economy. From our solid minerals report unveiled in this hall, the solid minerals sector contributes less than 1%, 0.068% to our GDP, and very minimal to our internal revenue generation. So we had also recommended comprehensive reform of that sector. We have a plan, and I'll be in the coming days. We hope to have a meeting with the minister to share our thoughts and offer our advice. Next slide. Next slide. Well, for the NDDC, back to NDDC, our major concern is that all the projects recorded by NDDC were classified as emergency. So, and when any project is done under emergency, there will be concerns for process, there will be concerns about project conception, planning, and execution. And why would all their projects be an emergency? So we recommended a comprehensive and urgent emergency agent audit of all the projects by the Commission to establish value for money. It's very mild, but that's exactly what we see. When you go into such engagement, you will be able to understand why projects that are already in your work plan and budget will now be termed emergency. We have also recommended for all the states to develop strategies on improving IGR and lessen their dependence on government allocation from Abuja. And Neiti is willing and available to work with any state in terms of sharing our skills and knowledge on how this can come about. A lot of international development partners have been asking if we can support states, and they are willing to also fund those initiatives, provided it will not be an exercise for documentation, but an exercise that will lead to visible impact. Next slide. Well, I wouldn't want to take your time more because the recommendations are specific and they are very large. We took just some of them, and I do think that you take out time to read, to go through the recommendations as simplified if you can't go through the main report. On that note, I would like to thank all of you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Now you know why I cannot resist calling you the Honorable ES, and the round of applause that followed after your presentation is an indication of how satisfied the audience is. And it's always very refreshing when you have a chief executive that's in touch with the numbers, speaking authoritatively to the report. as we go on to the high point of today's event, there is a popular question in the global EITI circles, and it is, have the abundant resources in oil and gas translated to improve quality of lives? And if not, why not? So the question is to be answered by you, especially the leaders of the civil society organizations here. Most respected Eze Onyekpere takes judicial notice of this question, together with all of you, other people, okay. And at this time, I would like to establish the foundation for today's event by referring us to Section 4, subsection 3 of the Neiti Act of 2007, which states, upon the completion of an audit, the independent auditors shall submit the reports together with the comments of the extractive industry companies to Neiti. We shall cause same to be disseminated to the National Assembly and the Auditor General of the Federation, and also ensure their publication. Having conducted all of these processes, it is now important that we invite the Auditor General having concluded the processes, including the presentation of the report by the Executive Secretary, permits me to now invite the Auditor General of the Federation for the unveiling, the public unveiling as required by Section 4, subsection 3 of the Neiti Act. The Auditor General of the Federation is ably represented by Mr. Sundang Elder James, who is the Director, Special Duties in the Audit Department. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome him with a round of applause. Mr. Sundang, this is a very important national duty, and you are doing it on behalf of the Auditor General of the Federation, which is also constitutional. You're welcome, sir.
Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. The Auditor General for the Federation was supposed to be here. I was with him yesterday in the evening with the hope that we will accompany him here to this very great event. Unfortunately, late in the night, he received a message that he needed to attend to at the National Assembly. And he mandated me to be here to represent him. And therefore, I'm going to read his speech. I am delighted and highly honored to participate in the unveiling of the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative 2020 to 2021 fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement to deliver this goodwill message to all of us here. The fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement report is useful to my office as one of the national stakeholders working group of the Neiti, and also in fulfillment of my mandate as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I am aware that the report reflects the entire revenue accruing to the Federation account, basically from the oil and gas sector, as well as the disbursement of the Federation revenue to the 3 tiers of government. In recent times, the government has been improving infrastructure deficit in the country through provision of critical infrastructure, such as rails, roads, bridges, ports, public buildings, power, etc., while also trying to improve the social well-being of the citizens in education, health, and other social welfare activities. These activities require a huge outflow of funds, hence the need to examine the revenue portfolio to the government and ensure that every person here in the value chain is accountable to the people. Thus, with every government's national and subnational aspiration to bequeath a country with adequate infrastructure, there is a major issue of revenue. The three tiers of government are consistently confronted with the question of how we grow our revenue. This challenge is obvious to all of us, especially in the present world where advanced countries are looking into renewable energy, thereby jettisoning the main source of our revenue, crude oil and gas. Thus, the need to continually draw the government's attention to the need to optimize the resources for the benefit of the citizens while diversifying the sources of revenue. This report will further assist my office when performing the audit of the Federation revenue, its collection, remittance, and disbursement process. Also, it will aid the periodic checks of deductions and transfers made before remittance and the FAC allocations. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to inform you here that the last report of the Neiti on minerals and that of the oil and gas is on my table. I have tried in as much as possible to check auditors that we posted them to some of the MDAs that are responsible for the generation of this revenue to see how far they have gone with their work, whether it is aligning truly to what Neiti has done. And I want to congratulate Neiti. Neiti has done well with one of the reports that I have seen. It shows we will reach there where we are thinking of. And I wish, most especially the chief executive who has been able to outline and bring out this very noble and amiable information and data, which will also help all of us, both the government, civil society, and all those interested in seeing that the nitty-gritty is accepted for development. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and privilege to unveil the fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement report for the benefit of our dear country. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Another round of applause for the Auditor General of the Federation. And part of the section of the Neiti Act that I cited emphasized the role of the National Assembly. And we're happy to announce that Honorable Jeremiah Umaru, ACA, the Deputy Chairman of the House Committee on Public Accounts, is around. Honorable Member, all right. And representing the people, you would just follow suit to walk to the front. In addition, as we now go to the formal ceremony of the unveiling. And it's important at this time to welcome the Executive Secretary of the Neiti to join the... Yes. And this becomes a general call to all the public servants here, the senior public servants here who are sitting in the service table at the front to join the meeting, join the dignitaries for the unveiling ceremony. Yes. And I wonder why the most senior member of the civil society organizations here is not joining them. Please, with much respect, sir, Mr. Eze Onyekwe, kindly join them for the unveiling. And George Tengi, what are you waiting for? And Otumba Benga Naiga, you take your place, sir. All right. And the formal unveiling, I think that the Auditor General will now hold the tape. Where are the ushers? This is unveiling a report that can cause a lot of trouble for some people, but that can also create a lot of development. All right.
I have already spoken. This report, I believe, is going to help us, is going to enrich us in the course of our day-to-day activities in government, in civil society, and in the 3 tiers of government. And it will help in furthering development in this country. May the Almighty God bless and we make use of this to the glory of God.
And I believe that we've done the first round of photographs, and I'll this time invite the management of Neiti to join them for. You hold it. Please, the management of Neiti, join, please, and go ensure. Okay, all right. All right, members of the members of Neiti management can now join. Quickly. Yes.
Yeah. That was your remain. All right.
Neiti management, please. Okay. All right, quickly. Members of the civil society can now proceed to join the train of photographs immediately after the management of Neiti. Please get ready. Basiudo, lead the train. Where is okay? All right, civil society. Let's proceed. And many people wonder what I'm doing here, whether I'm an MC, but I still remain the executive director of citizens advocacy. Yes. Native management, civil society. Yeah. Join us.
I've been trying to get more with that.
Okay. Stand near the DG. Okay, come this way. Let me hide the mic. All right.
You know your
Okay. And then immediately after the members and leaders of the civil society have taken their photograph, the leaders of the media here can proceed to join the photograph train. Please, members of the media. And after the media, the most important persons in this hall today, the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, can now follow. Media, nobody to hold the camera, so there's nobody to take the picture. Okay. Media, and then the rest of you, please.
Okay. Then the next thing is vote of thanks. We call George.
Hey, so much. I'm from this is the winner. Okay. Yeah. My pleasure. Yes.
When you call by name, I don't think it's my brother.
The glasses don't work, right? I will pull up. Yes.
The auditors, all the auditors.
Yes. Prof, have you joined the photograph? And now we can have the special one for the auditors. The rest of us can please come and take your copies and take a photograph. The auditors. Let's begin to conclude the photographs as we invite Mr. George Anthony Ibie. Get prepared to give the vote of thanks. Mr. George. I will bottle your first. All right. You got your copy?
Yeah, I did.
But the office, the office here out. You need to call the order. Right?
All right. The official photograph session. The photograph session is now officially over. The photograph session is officially over. Please, those in charge of the refreshment should please halt. Let us conclude this program. We've started well. Let us be orderly. Please stop. Ladies and gentlemen, can we invite Mr. George Ibie to give the vote of thanks? You still, yes, give. I know you don't like this. I hope that you don't want a report to be made on you. I mean, to be made about you concerning flouting rules because of food. Please let the Mr. George will not give the vote of thanks if you don't stop. You can say you insist. Please, you go there and Mr. Chris, go and enforce the order. This is an aberration and it's unbecoming of any person that can attend this meeting. We have been quite mild. It is not expected of you. And we are being informed that it is the members, the staff of Neiti that are flouting the program. You must be in order. Stop. It is not yet time for refreshment. Please stop and respect yourselves. Mr. George Ibie will not give the vote of thanks unless there is order. Please, don't embarrass the executive secretary, staff of Neiti, please. And the management of this hotel must follow orders. And at this time, respectfully, may I invite Mr. George Ibie to give the vote of thanks. And let us be orderly and show some respect for him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, I want to seek your permission. Okay, thank you. On behalf of the Energy and Mining Department, firstly, I wish to thank the Executive Secretary who has supported us all through the process. We've gone through our various reports, And from the oil and gas to solid mineral, and then now today we are on this, our last report for this year. We thank the ES for his leadership. And it gives us great joy that we've got to this stage as a department, that we are able to finally successfully launch these reports. We also want to thank our internal stakeholders, because we didn't work alone. We had other departments and members of SMT that worked with us. We thank them so much. And then I also want to thank external stakeholders. We have our independent administrators that work with us, Ahmad Onikwe and co. We also have other various stakeholders externally that worked along with us to achieve this. We thank you all. Previously, the chief executive had already given his speech where he had thanked various segments of society, of people that are represented here, and even those who are not here, for the support they have given to us. I want to reinforce that, which he has already done, by thanking you again. Specifically, I want to say, let me thank ROLAC for their support, for making it possible for us to be here the third time. As has been mentioned, they are now international idea. So we really want to give them that appreciation for their efforts. And then the heads of MDs that are represented here, and those who are here by themselves, even members of National Assembly that are here, we need to thank you all. And then this report, as we said, is basically looking at how federal, states, and local governments got to use the funds that got to them from the federal government. And the Nigerian Governors Forum was represented here, or is represented here. So we really want to thank you, because we believe you're going to take it, run along with it to your members of Governors Forum. And then I also want to thank in advance, because these two last teams have to earn it when they have done the part that have been directed to achieve here by one of the speakers, the media and the civil society organizations. This report is very strategic to reaching the grassroots. And as such, I want to thank you in advance. And I say you will earn it when you have achieved that, which I'm thanking you for right now. So please have that at the back of your mind as you leave here. Run with the reports. The media organizations are here. Please pass it on to your counterparts that are rural-based media, so that they can also spread the information. The CSOs, we have the CSOs that are based in the rural communities. Please link up in your network and let this report sink down, so it can be used effectively to know what the people really deserve from what they got from the federal government, or from the federation rather. So I also want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for being here with us all through this period that we've spent together. We are very happy to see you in our midst. And we say that when we call upon you next time, please do not hesitate to answer us, and then come and support us just as you've done today. Thank you so much.
And the next item on the agenda is lunch. And may we please clear the lunch section for the members of the service table, even though without tables, to first approach the lunch spot, please. And this officially brings to an end to the unveiling of the Neiti 2020-21 Fiscal Allocation and Statutory Disbursement Report. I am Frank Tiete, lawyer and executive director of Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights. I have been your moderator. Thank you for being a good audience.
It is this dust, and you're about to smell what the rock is cooking. The rock is cooking. The rock is cooking.
Please, members of the high table, without tables, so please come, file out. Okay, yeah, so, all right. Thank you for that. That's why you were very worried. All right, you members of the hall can now orderly go to the lunch spot. The senior public servants are going to the other side. Okay, your own is over there. And sometimes, they come and do this, and I can't say no. Right.